Hello, KCS families. I'm here to help you with your course planning for the spring and just letting you know that I am available at any time. My office hours this semester are in period 5, and you are more than welcome to sign up and make a time to meet with me, or if it's easier for you, we can correspond via email or via phone call. So we can make anything work, and hopefully this presentation helps answer some of your questions about course planning. So we'll start with the requirements for graduation. So the main goal in grade 10 to 12 is to accumulate a minimum of 24 credits. So we say a minimum because we don't always want all of our students to graduate with only the 24 credits, simply because if anything happens where a course was missed or you don't pass something, we like to have that buffer zone, to have a couple extra credits just to make sure that there are no surprises when it comes to graduation. And just because certain courses are not listed as being prerequisites for a post-secondary program or career doesn't mean they won't be handy to have. So keep that in mind as well when you're planning for your courses. There's certain required classes that every student must have to graduate, and the rest are called electives. So we're going to go through the required classes here right away, and they are all courses that you need to be able to get a grade 12 diploma in the province of Saskatchewan. So we'll start with the grade 10 requirements. So every grade 10 student needs to take ELA A10 and B10. They need to take Social Studies 10 or Native Studies 10. We do offer that as well. They need to take Science 10, and they need to take at least one math at the grade 10 level. Now, here's where the personalized learning part does come in. So most of our grade 10 students, we do have them taking both math pathways in grade 10. Just to kind of explore them both. However, if there are students whose interests and abilities do not lie in the foundations and pre-calculus math pathway, if they struggle with math, if math is not something that they wish to pursue going forward, we do have an option for them to just do a workplace and apprenticeship math stream in grade 10. Like I said, that's the personalized part of our education. So I do recommend chatting with your math teachers and kind of working together to decide what's right for you and your student going forward. Every grade 10 needs to have at least 4 elective at the 10 level or higher. So we do ask all students to enroll in Wellness 10, simply because every student needs a phys ed credit in grade 10, 11, or 12 to graduate. And if we don't have them taking it in grade 10, sometimes it can be missed. And we'd hate for students not to graduate because they don't have a phys ed. So we do ask all grade 10s to take Wellness 10. The electives that students can choose are really where they get to explore their career areas of interest or just things that they want to learn more about for their future. So we do ask that you choose those elective classes based on things that you want to learn, that you'll be excited to learn in classes. In grade 11, the required courses are ELA 20 and at least one math at the 20 level, and at least one science at the 20 level. And I'll spend some time talking about the maths and sciences here in a bit. And at least 6 electives at the 20 or 30 level. So grade 11 is the year that we do have students doing things like taking their social science requirement for graduation. We have them finishing up their practical and applied art or arts credits for graduation, and just making sure they have those required things going into grade 12. So the requirements for grade 12 are ELA A30, ELA B30, and Social Studies 30. So Social Studies 30 can be either Social Studies, Canadian Studies, History, or Native Studies 30. Every student must take one of those classes to be able to graduate. Now, aside from those grade 10, 11, and 12 courses that students have to take, there are also other courses needed for graduation. So students need to take a social science at the 20 or 30 level. Now, a social science is considered to be law 30, psychology 20, psychology 30, social studies 20, history 20, or native studies 20. So every student needs to have one of those courses in order to graduate, and we call that their social science. Now, that often gets confused with their social studies 30 that they need to take. They need to take both their social science and their social studies 30 in order to graduate. And again, we often get the students to take that social science credit in grade 11 just to make sure they have it. Every student needs 2 credits in arts education or practical and applied arts, and they can be at the 10, 20, or 30 level. And this includes things like band, visual art, foods, construction, mechanics, welding, auto body, accounting, info pro, photography, and cosmetology. Those are just some of the things that we offer here in our school that count towards that art and practical and applied art credit. Every student needs to take wellness 10 or phys ed 20 or phys ed 30. They need a phys ed to be able to graduate. So again, we do get all of our grade 10s to take wellness just so that they get that out of the way and it doesn't get missed. In order to graduate, at least 5 of your courses on your transcript must be at the 30 level. So we need to always be aware of that as well. That brings us to chatting a little bit about Saskatchewan science pathways. So in grade 10, every student will take Science 10. Science 10 is a general science. It's not something that students can select anything specific. So when it comes to grade 11 is when their science pathways get selected. So the 20 level science courses that are offered in Saskatchewan are Health Science 20, which is a prerequisite for Biology 30. Environmental Science 20, which can be a prerequisite for Biology 30, and a course called Earth Science 30, which we haven't offered in our school in a few years. Doesn't mean that we won't ever, but typically it's the Biology 30 is that 30 level course that we do offer in our school. Computer Science 20 is a prerequisite for Computer Science 30. Now, we do not offer the Computer Science pathway here at KCS, but they do offer it through the SunWest Distance Learning Center, and it is an option for students who are really keen and interested in computer science. It is not an easy pathway by any means, but it does work for some students in their personalized learning journey. Physical science is a prerequisite for both Chemistry 30 and Physics 30, and it does include the concepts for both of those courses. So how do I choose a science pathway? Please know that 20 level science is what you need to graduate in the province of Saskatchewan. You do not need a 30 level science to be able to graduate. Some students, again, in their personalized learning journey, science is not necessarily something that they plan to pursue in the future. It's not maybe easy for them, or maybe there's other factors involved, and some students choose just to stick with the 20 level science to be able to graduate. It's important to know that a 30 level science is required for many post-secondary programs, and some post-secondary programs require more than one 30 level science. So it's really important that you do your homework, you know what you could potentially be needing for sciences going forward. So the 3 20 level sciences that we offer here at our school are Environmental Science 20, which is a really good fit for students who struggle with science concepts, who maybe find science really challenging. This is typically the science that those students would choose, and it can be used as a prerequisite for Biology 30. However, Health Science 20 is the preferred prerequisite for Biology 30. It will allow students to be more successful in Biology 30. It's got more of those concepts included in that course. Physical Science 20 is a combination of Chem and Physics, and it is a prerequisite for Chemistry 30 and Physics 30. So it's important for those students going into grade 11 to kind of really make an informed decision and not close any doors for themselves going into grade 12, because it's easier to take the maybe 2 sciences in grade 11 and have the option to take Biology 30, Chemistry 30, and Physics 30 in grade 12, and not have to go back in grade 12 and take one of those 20 level science courses that they might have missed. Again, it's a personal journey, and it really depends on the students' abilities and their interests. students are encouraged to research what 30-level science they might need for post-secondary programs. And if you're not sure, or you just want to keep your doors open for a potential career pathway that you might not have thought of yet, I would recommend taking as many of those 30-level science as your interests and abilities allow. The Saskatchewan math pathways. So kindergarten to grade 9, every student does take the same math pathway. In grade 10, like I mentioned before, it does branch off into 2 different pathways, the workplace and apprenticeship math and the foundations and pre-calculus math. So those 2 math pathways in grade 10, we do encourage most of our students to try both. And then in grade 11, you can choose to continue with any or all of the math pathways, depending on how much math you want to take. So the Foundations and Pre-Calculus 10 math pathway in grade 11 splits off into 2 different pathways. So it splits off into Pre-Calculus and Foundations of Math. And I will explain them a little bit more here in the next slide. But just so that you know, the Pre-Calculus pathway goes right down into Calculus 30, which is the highest level you can go with that pathway. And then the Foundations pathway goes to Foundations of Math 30. So the pre-calc pathway has an extra class involved if students choose to take it. So 20-level math is required to graduate. You do not need to have 30-level math to graduate, but again, a 30-level math is recommended or required actually for most post-secondary programs. So again, it's a personal choice and something that does need to be considered when you're factoring what maths you're going to take. So which math pathway should I choose? So the workplace and apprenticeship pathway is a fantastically practical math pathway, and it's the most practical of the math pathways. So it allows students to learn a lot of real life math, and it's great for students who plan to enter the workforce upon graduation. It's great for students who plan to enter the majority of the trades when they're done school. And there's lots of technical programs that will accept that workplace and apprenticeship pathway as well. The foundations and the pre-calc pathways, they're often the ones that we get the most questions about. Some students choose to do both of those pathways, again, just to immerse themselves in more math, that they might see the concepts coming up in post-secondary. But the foundations pathway is identified for post-secondary studies that don't require calculus. So there's lots of university programs that list Foundations 30 as a prerequisite, most of them actually. The pre-calculus pathway is designed for post-secondary studies that require the study of calculus. So there's some university programs that tell you need to have pre-calculus 30. Others will recommend having pre-calculus 30. So others will say Foundations of Math 30 or pre-calculus 30, and then there'll be a little asterisk and it'll say pre-calculus recommended. That's simply because a lot of the university math concepts, the calculus concepts, the high school portion of them are covered really, really quickly at the beginning of the course. And students find that if they've at least taken that pre-calc stream, even if they didn't do that great in it, at least they have those concepts as part of their repertoire. They've seen them before. So it's important that you really do your research and find out what works best for you in terms of your math pathways. Because a lot of students think that they can't or shouldn't take a higher math pathway because it will, bring down their overall academic average. Please note that a lot of post-secondary institutions will take your highest math mark from the math that you take. So it's really important to not focus so much on the marks, but focus on getting those concepts. If a higher level math in post-secondary is something that's going to be, in your future. It's really important for parents and students to take an active and involved role in planning for the future. Please ask questions if you have questions, and please let us support you here at KCS in your career planning journey.